I'm Karen Hethey. I'm based up in Perth, it's a real pleasure to be down here on Noongar country here and being part of bringing this very big story to life. Okay, my role, I was brought in as part of the creative process for bringing the story to life through performance. So I'm coming in a key artistic role, I guess, with people, to work with them culturally, also to work it into a puppet project, puppet story, puppet performance. So there's a couple of levels that I'm working at in that way. So I'm coming in as what we call an animateur, which is a little bit like a creative director, but it's not quite that. So bringing all the parts together with people into their visions to then bring it to life. And then the other level I'm doing that also is as a puppetry artist. I'm taking everyone through the puppet making process, building the whole story with people and finding ways to bring that to life for the performance. Okay, so for me coming in, the point that I came in, they'd already discovered this story, and the process of discovering the story came through the place naming project. And as they unravelled each word and discovering that was a sentence, and then discovering those sentences were names of places around here, and as they went further into those names, people realised this is actually the body parts of Mulka, this giant ancestral being who is part of a very, very big story. So as people went into discovering these words, these sentences, the story started coming out of the land. And so that led into this journey of, well, what is the story, and how do we remember, put this story back together for now, and how do we look after that story, and how do we share that story in this time? And it's a very important time. So it's taken people on this journey, and then I came in at a point where people wanted to tell the story. And so from that, it's then been discovering different gaps in the story, but also then discovering more people holding different parts of the story, and the challenges that come with looking after story and holding it and who holds it. So there's been this really interesting process of discovery, uncovering, to recover, and to remember, to put something back together. And the actual puppet making process actually reflects that, because we make all the parts individually that then have to be put together as a giant puppet. So it's been a really interesting process for people, and to discover that this particular very, very important story is at the heart of a much, much, much bigger songline. So it's part of this enormous songline that actually crosses the entire Noongar nation of peoples and all the clan groups that are part of that. So it's a very, very big story, and this part of it is it's been quite amazing for people to discover this and to share it. Well, for me as a puppeteer and a puppetry artist, puppets have always held people's stories, and so they come to life because we bring them to life, and they can't come to life without us. And I think one of the things, because I do large-scale puppets, giant puppets, big spectacle puppetry, when you think about, for me, thinking about cultural stories in Australia and for people of the nations here, these are very big stories in country. So the ancestral beings were very big. And so for people to see these with such big scale gives a real sense of strength of the stories, and how important they are, and how big they are, and how much energy they have. So it's a little way of showing these much, much, much bigger stories. But also the way I work with people, everyone learns and creates the puppets with me. So they start from splitting the bamboo, twisting the wire, putting the cane around. And so there's a lot of people involved in building these puppets. So the story gets absorbed into the body. And as puppeteers, we tell the story through our bodies because it's through us that we bring the puppets to life. So when I think about how First Nation cultures transmitted story, held story, shared story, and performed story through song, through ceremony, through dance, it's always in the body and in the memory. So as performers, I always work with body memory. So the puppets and the process of doing these puppets, actually you share that memory with lots of people, and then they hold it in their bodies. So for me, there's a really creative process that's also really joyous, that brings people together, and then you share the story, hold the story and tell the story, but then something's left, very strong and positive about, to me, then what those stories actually hold, and the morals and the values, and that's actually reflected in how we create the puppets. So, and I think puppetry is a really good way of lots of people coming together. Like the puppets you see here, they're going to take 5-6 people to operate. We've had over 40 young people involved in making the puppets so far, so there's a whole lot of people in this region now that connect the country, the places. There's a lot of people that connect now the places with the body parts, and they have a relationship to the actual country in a way that they wouldn't have thought about it before. And the time that it takes to create the story and the joy of it and the fun of it and the challenges of it, it's a great way of building community. Puppetry it's an ancient art form, but it's also a very contemporary art form. And it's a lot of fun for people to think about ways and look at and explore different art forms in this time that can really engage young people and parents and community leaders and elders, all in the process of exploring ways to keep holding story in our contemporary times. So for me as an artist, it's a really lovely opportunity to share what I know, for people to want to explore and find a way of keeping culture alive and living, and bringing old ways and new ways together.